So today we're going to talk about why is the chronic pain epidemic getting worse. I'm Dr. Martin Rutherford. I'm a certified functional medicine practitioner here in Reno, Nevada. I am also a chiropractor since 1979.
Dr. Randall Gates, board certified chiropractic neurologist, also a chiropractor.
And we have, today's going to be a little different. Okay, today's going to be a little different for those of you who do watch regularly or download us regularly. It's going to be a little different. Hopefully this is not going to be rambling in a sense that we don't have as tight a subject, but what we thought would be appropriate to address, given the fact that about 2 weeks ago there was a headline that appeared pretty much all weekend on ABC and CBS and NBC News and other news outlets that now 59% of the American public suffer some sort of chronic condition. And when I got into this, it was 5 million people were estimated at that point in time. That was Stanford and Harvard, and their research centers were saying that. And now I don't even know who said this. All I know is that maybe it was a government agency. All I know, it was all over the news. And the solution was that we're going to start making more bike paths, and we're going to start making more green belts, and we are going to pay more attention to diabetes, which might actually cut into it like 1/10 of 1% or something like that. Maybe more than that. But as you're going to see, there's so much to what's creating this chronic pain. So we're gonna do kind of a quick overview of what we see. So Dr. Gates is a board certified functional neurologist. He works with the brain and stress mechanisms. I am a functional medicine doctor who has been schooled in all of the 9 systems of the body. And Dr. Gates also has these skills. And when you look at all the 9 systems of the body, there is so much going on. There are so many biochemical pathways. The liver itself has like 350 biochemical pathways. And we talked last week about how there is no silver bullet, and we talked a little bit more about addressing these different systems, biochemical systems, feedback systems, multiple vicious cycles that are going on between your thyroid and your stress mechanisms and your adrenal glands and your gut. But we keep talking mostly about how to go about fixing these. But ultimately what we thought would be good would be to talk about what people are coming in here with. Every week I might say something like, I'm the guy who does the consults around here. And people come into me and they start vomiting on me like right away because they think they got like 5 or 10 minutes like in a regular doctor, and they want to get everything out. And I'm like, hey, calm down, relax. I take like an hour to listen to that person the first day. And Dr. Gates will, whenever I say all of our patients do well, there are some exceptions, but not many. And Dr. Gates will always chime in the properly selected patient, and he's right to do so. What we're going to discuss today is a lot about what that proper selection process is, because what we have come to understand that is causing chronic pain is really a societal change. The people who come into me today are much more educated on chronic pain than they were 5, 10 years ago, like way more, to the degree that today I don't have to argue with people over whether gluten could possibly be a problem, or I don't have to argue with people over whether food can have a profound effect on them. In fact, most people are coming in today understand stress is involved. Most people come in today have tried one of multiple diets. They've looked on the internet and found the supplement for stress, or they found the supplement for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or there's a million websites out there now who are giving you all the data or selling you all the data on intestinal permeability and food sensitivities and all these type of things. Yet they're still sitting in front of me, sick, okay, and not getting better. Now, we've talked about why that is in past presentations. I think last week we might talk, but we talk about it in our There Is No Silver Bullet presentations, and I think we've done 2 of those. So you can know all the things that are there and still difficult because there's a certain order in which you have to attack these. Some of these things have to be taken care of at the same time, so they don't sabotage each other and so on and so forth. But we have to evaluate the patient because this is a massive lifestyle change. Okay. Now people kind of get that it's a lifestyle change. I'm going to have to like change my diet. I'll usually say to the person when I'm having doubts about it, I'll say, if I take away the 3 to 4 or 5 of your most favorite foods in the whole world, are you going to be able to do this? And if they go like this and they start having like heart palpitations and little beads of sweat start going on their forehead, they may not be a properly selected patient for this type of procedure. All right, I'm saying all that to kind of set up what we're going to talk about is all of the things that have led up to that. Why is it exploding? Why, despite the fact that people are coming in here, they know about leaky gut, they know about stress mechanisms. I talked to 2 people in the healthcare field who I happen to respect this weekend. They have no clue as to how to go about this. Why is it that this number keeps burgeoning from 45 million to what is 59% of it? There's 320 million people in the United States, right? So it's over 160 million now. We were just saying 130 million a couple of weeks ago that came out from some agency or something like that. So that's what, 170, 180 million or something along those lines. So here's what we're listening for. Here's what we're evaluating. And then there will be some scientific backup on this relative to some of the things. We're going to go through this maybe in 10 or 15 minutes. I'm going to go through what I see, okay? I may not be the authority of the world on this, okay? But this is what I see. This is what I'm listening for. Certain things that people say relative to their history. In functional medicine, I will say in the functional medicine, there's something called the functional medicine matrix. There's a lot of different moving parts to this, but they also advise a history that starts back when the person is born, okay? And that is the key as to what's happening to people since they were born in this current society. Because what we're finding out is chronic pain is kind of like dominoes. The person will come in here and they'll say, oh, it was February of 2014. Now, when somebody puts something there, there was a trigger. What happened? Did you get stressed? Did you have a baby? Were you in a car accident? Did you have an overwhelming infection? Did you have a flu, a virus? All these things are triggers, okay? But the problem started way back here. Maybe when they were born, maybe when they were in the womb. And as we've started to dig those things out and have done so over years, we've heard everything. And these are all the things we're going to talk about here are going to be like, these are things we have to talk to people about, or things that we need to know what system might be involved. So what's causing this problem? So what's causing it? So I'm doing a lot of the talking this week. I'll keep talking until you stop me. So here's the deal. Okay.
Well, let me answer that question.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So what's causing the problem is really our model for handling chronic pain in large part. That's one segment of it. The other segment is societal. It is everything going on that Dr. Rutherford is going to allude to. And just so you know, Dr. Rutherford basically laid it out this morning. Him and I were discussing this problem. We were really discussing our frustrations over this issue. So we talked about this last week. We're talking about the exact same thing again, because we had more patients this week come in, and they were heartbreaking cases where you could just see where these people's lives have been train wrecked by chronic pain. I felt fortuitous, frankly, with my path with pain, because I had pain in high school that finally I was lucky enough to go see a chiropractor, which I did not believe in. And then ultimately I was better in 4 visits. But what if I had not gone there? What if I was just like that other football player recently in our local news who got addicted to narcotic drugs? Not to use that as a jumping point, but it's just an illustration, because so many people in the chronic pain cycle, they get hooked into the system. The system is, you do this, you fail, you do this, you fail that, then you're basically on these chronic opioid medications for the rest of your life. And that's all we got for you. That's the model. Yeah. And we'll talk about surgeries, and it all depends on what your chronic problem is. You may have fibromyalgia, you may have rheumatoid arthritis, you may have a back problem, you may have peripheral neuropathy. We can talk about each one of those specifically, and we will. But the idea is that our model is is kind of trying to fix the problem on the wrong end.
Mm-hmm.
And we have some other really, really major societal shifts going on that are facilitating the burgeoning of the chronic pain epidemic. And that's what you were going to go into.
So I'm just going to kind of go through with you what I hear every day. And I don't hear all of this from everybody, but I'm going to put a timeline together. And it may sound political, it may sound spiritual, it may sound whatever it is. It's not any of those things. This is what we see. This is the objective evidence, or this is actually the subjective evidence. This is the patient talking to us, telling us their history. And as they're telling me their history, I'm thinking in terms of what systems are they screwing up? And are these systems recoverable? And are they at the point where, are they at the point where these systems are too far gone and they're not going to be able to respond to what we do? In which case, the model that Dr. Gates talked about, the pain model, is pretty much, they're only out at that point in time. So here's what we see. Okay, it appears to be societal. Whew, man, so I could start with pregnancy, or I could even start before that. And I'm gonna take a real flyer here and hope that you people don't turn me off right now before I get to all the other stuff that you're probably going to embrace a lot more. But society is much less stable than it used to be. Yes, society never was perfect. Yes, everybody wasn't always happy, but society had more stable parameters when I was a child. Okay, and I'm 63 years old, so I can talk with experience from the time where people worked 40 hours a week. They took time off. They weren't working 2 and 3 and 4 jobs for the most part. Sundays were off. Sundays were a time to rest and relax, something that maybe we don't build into that balance that we used to have. In fact, when I was a kid, there were no stores open on Sundays. From like Saturday afternoon till Monday morning, everything was shut down. On Sunday, you went to church. You didn't go to church. You went and visited. You didn't do everything. You chilled. You relaxed. We didn't have television the way that we have it today. Obviously, the next thing is we didn't have these hand devices that would keep us up all night. We had a very, very, very stable society. Our hopes and dreams were there, but they weren't maybe what they are today. Today, it's almost like if you're ever satisfied, or if you ever feel like you're satisfied, you're like an idiot. You can't be satisfied. Back then, for the most part, people wanted to have a home, they wanted to have family, they wanted to have food on the table, a roof over their head, and a job. And if they had that, you know, I forget what Truman called it. I think it was Truman said,
a chicken in
every
pot,
yeah, and a car in every driveway, or something like that. And once you had that, life was good. You partied, you know, you went out with your friends, you did things, but there was a balance there. So this is like Ozzie and Harriet type of thing that we laugh at today, and we do laugh at it, but I'm telling you, the deviation from that has been drastic. Okay, so now we get people who come in here. So frequently, if let's say it's a child, if a child comes in here and 12 years old, the first thing I'm gonna do, ask the mom is, so how was your life before pregnancy? Well, you know, it was pretty stressful. I was working 2 jobs. I was contemplating going through a divorce. I was going through a divorce. I was sick. I was on a lot of medications. There is now plenty of data to understand that many of the things that cause the problems that we treat transcends the placenta, goes into the child chemically, the child comes out, and now the child's not feeling all that great. So things can start back then. This is not a personal opinion, okay? This is what I hear day in and day out and day in and day out. The breaking up of people having multiple divorces, having multiple partners that have to be dealt with. Some are gone, some are not gone. The kids ultimately having multiple parents that they have to be beholding to and liking and not liking. This seems to have a profound effect on a lot of children, at least the kids that come in here, because when I get the parents out of the way, they talk about it, okay? And it's very stressful. So we have that aspect of it, and that aspect of it seems to play into some of the stresses, or a lot of the stresses that pregnant women. I've actually had people come in here who's not a few, whose boyfriend left them during the pregnancy. Okay, so these are very stressful things. These stress hormones are damaging. Now, if the mother has gone through these changes that we're about to talk about already, the mother is a compromised host. Maybe she's got fibromyalgia, maybe she's got chronic fatigue, maybe she's got chronic pain. She's a compromised host already because society is now having more and more and more of these folks. It's not uncommon, okay, for someone to be like that, and now they have a child. So now we have the child comes out, and maybe the child's getting chronic infections, maybe their tonsils are getting infected, maybe their adenoids are growing, but frequently it's ear infections and things of that nature. Now it's antibiotics.
Lots of antibiotics.
And now it's antibiotics. Okay. And now it's off to the races. Okay. And now, and I can say this because I know I even remember interviewing in the late 1990s the head of the Philadelphia Children's Hospital, whose name is going to fail me at this time, but he wrote a book on why children were dying in his hospital because antibiotics were becoming resistant. Well, it's worse than that. Okay, these antibiotics are now understood that as soon as you start giving people numbers of trials of antibiotics at that age, your gut is basically gone. Okay, once you start looking at our stuff, you'll get sick of hearing us talk about how important the gut is. And the research now on it is profound. All right, so now we have that. Now let's just follow kind of the kid through. Now the kid goes through, maybe the parents are solid, maybe they're not, maybe the parents are divorced, maybe they're not. If they're divorced, trust me, kids have problems when they get divorced. Kids have problems when their favorite parent has to move away. Kids have problems because, I mean, the whole thing is very stressful. It's very stressful. Any of you who are watching this and have kids know that what I'm saying is true. So so the kids are bad. Now they start to get a bad gut. Okay, when we get a kid that comes in here with a bad gut or chronic skin problems or anything like that when they're a kid, I'll tell you what we're looking for, because we hear it over and over and over and over and over and over again. We're looking for stress. We're looking for an autoimmune problem. So we look at the family's history. Do you have multiple thyroid problems in your family? Do you have multiple bad gut problems in your family? Do you have MS? Do you have rheumatoid? We clear that up. If it's there, it's there. They might have an autoimmune problem. Most of the time, these kids are stressed out of their minds. And the stress hormones are damaging. Frequently, they're already damaged gut.
Right.
Because by that time they've already had antibiotics and so on and so forth.
Right.
So now they get, I'm laying this out, and then he's gonna go into the science of these things. So now they get the bad gut, and the next step for us when we see the young children is high school. They go to high school. Now maybe it's a stress from changing schools, maybe it's because they're being bullied. Maybe it's because they have to look beautiful. They're on the thing. They're doing the sex thing. They're not doing the sex thing. They're up with their phones until late at night. There's a lot of social pressures there that just weren't there when I was a kid. And trust me, I went to one of the worst high schools in the United States. So the pressures that were there at my school, I mean, are nothing today. They're like nothing compared to the things I'm hearing from these kids. The sexual activities that I'm hearing about, the sexual pressure. I hear these things, okay? I'm not talking about anything that I'm thinking maybe is kind of sort of there. I'm talking about things I hear about at least every week from people. And if I can get the parent out of the room and these kids can trust me, and they usually know that they can trust me by that time because I'm talking to them, I'm not talking to their parents, and they start laying things out online, I don't even know how to hear some of the things that I'm hearing, because it's like, I didn't even know half of this stuff existed. So we have enormous stress there. So now we have a bad gut times 2, times 10. And now that gut is like Katie barred the door. Once you get a bad gut, we now have accepted intestinal permeability, which all of these kids have. All these kids are stressed out of their mind, and they're not stressed people. These kids are like in post-traumatic stress syndrome. Their brains have gotten to a point where it won't shut off. If you want to know if that's your kid, ask them how they're sleeping. If they can't fall asleep and their brain's going a million miles an hour, trust me, they have this. If they wake up in the middle of the night and they can't go back to sleep, they have this. You ask them to close their eyes and their eyes are fluttering like crazy, and it's like beating them to death. Their brain's going too much. And they're now getting the chemistry from that, and then that's messing up their gut. The next time we see people, another advancement in people who go to college, all right, people go to college, tons of kids go to college. Now it's not just stress, at least for the people who are serious about getting good grades in college, okay? But it's the abnormal sleep cycles,
absolutely,
which we've already developed because we've already watched our parents sitting up late at night, watching TV, Now, I don't watch at night. The last guy I know is David Letterman, and the new guys I don't know that well.
Jimmy Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon. Okay, I hear him on the radio in the morning. They do like a thing, so he's really funny. So people stay up and they watch him. So you stay up, you screw up your circadian rhythm. Sleep is so important. People today are just make fun of sleep. Oh, if I got to go to sleep, if I got to do something, what do I cut out? I cut out sleep. You need to go through so many circadian rhythms a night, so many sleep cycles a night, and get into deep sleep, this REM sleep, just so you can heal. Okay, you want to know why? Part of the reason that everybody's getting sick, because everybody thinks sleep is stupid. They go to sleep late, they don't sleep enough, or they got these stress mechanisms. They wake up in the middle, they can't go to sleep. They wake up in the middle of the night. Finally, they go to sleep. It's an hour to go before they get up. They're tired, and they haven't slept. In the meantime, while they're watching David Letterman or Jimmy Fallon, while they're watching Jimmy Fallon, they're usually eating some crappy. This stuff wasn't even available to us. I mean, I didn't get a television until I was like 8 years old, and it was like 3 channels, right? Our family didn't get it. It was like 3 channels that was done at like 1 o'clock, I guess, or something like that. And you didn't have, I had TV dinners when I was about 12 or something. So you didn't have the junky food. That's a small part of the problem. Everybody comes in here, it's the food, right? It's the GMOs, it's part of it. It's definitely part of it, but this is all making us susceptible to that. So now you got the kid in college, which I didn't forget about, who's going to bed late, getting up early, maybe skipping classes, the kids who aren't really serious about maybe getting great grades, maybe not eating regularly. So these kids in high school and in college tend to develop low blood sugar, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They tend to develop low blood. I'm getting a signal here. I've had people tell her, you bang on the thing to it. So they tend to get low blood sugar. Okay, so now we have low blood sugar. We have a bad gut. We have people that are stressed out of their minds. The stress hormones are damaging their blood-brain barriers, right? So now these kids, I don't even tell you how susceptible they are to probably being alcoholics at this point in time. But it's that time. They're in college, they're adults, they're learning who they are, and they're going through all of the stresses that there is in college today, on top of everything else that's going on. And so this is the flow that we see in the people that aren't in college. They got to go out and they got to get a job. And I don't know about you, but I've been in practice since 1980. We've had 4 recessions. We had the dot-com boom and bust, but we had the big one just recently, and people were coming in here in tears. I lost my job. I lost my houses. I lost everything. My wife left me. My husband left me. I don't know how to take care of my kids. I mean, it was unbelievable what we were hearing at that point in time. And it wasn't coincidental that this was when their particular system was triggered. They all along the way, by the way, this is all put up against the backdrop of a more sickening society in which we're starting to embrace the model of medication. And so I remember after World War II, my mother, I was born afterwards, but I remember my mother saying, oh, this is great, there's going to be a pill for everything. Okay, and we still kind of have that model. And so there's something called polypharmacy along the way. Polypharmacy means if you take more than 3 drugs, the 4th one's going to be a problem. Mm-hmm. In fact, the 4th one may be the problem. Okay, so we have polypharmacy. Now we start embracing that. We go into school. I'm sorry, this is what we hear every day. You might think like we're crazy, but this is what we have to understand to figure out what parts of these people's physiology are damaged that we're going to have to attack. I don't know about you, but I went to school in the late 60s to the early 70s. You couldn't walk into my dormitory without being hit in the face with puffs of marijuana. Today, we've just legalized marijuana here. We didn't legalize marijuana in Nevada, but we've legalized medical marijuana. Don't even get me started on that. Just relative to the politics of it and the fact that these things don't feel like medical marijuana places. Medical marijuana has a great value, but I'm not sure that that's what's happening in these things. And so I'm talking from an objective perspective because we have people coming in here who've done meth, who've been doing drugs, uppers, downers, acid, LSD their whole life. You think this doesn't have an effect on an entire population of people who had done. Our president even stood up there at the thing the other day and said, the last time I was this high was when I was deciding on what college I was going to. Like, this is our culture right now, okay? Don't take that as a political statement. Take that as trying to understand what environment I'm working in to decide which of the folks that are coming in here are a good candidate for what we do. So when Dr. Gates say we're screening, these are all things we're looking at. Now you get out of school, you got the stress of jobs, you got the stress of two working families, because we need two working families, two members of a family to survive well today, for the most part. People who come in here who are single mothers who have kids, how stressed are they? How tough is it for them? How common is it for them to get a good meal, a good night's sleep, or get their kids a good meal? And these mothers, for the most part, seem to be more attentive to being mothers than anybody else. And they're trying to make a living, and they're trying to pay for a house that they can't pay for. I'm not making this stuff up. This is the stuff. This is the stuff. These are the things we have to assess. Is this person's stress mechanisms so engaged that we're going to be able to overcome that, to calm it down? Because if we don't, it's going to sabotage everything we're doing. So we have that. We have the polypharmacy. We're getting to the foods, okay? There's a reason that I'm not getting to the foods first, and it's because we had this discussion the other day. How much is the food really a problem? It's a problem, but it's a problem maybe 20%. But you need to understand something. I mean, if we're taking drugs, we're stressed, we're taking lots of supplements, we're staying up late, we're not getting enough food. We have these devices that are continually redirecting our attention to there. And what are these devices doing? And what is advertising doing? And what are people doing today? They're putting us in fear. They're trying to make us feel that we're too fat, we're too skinny, we're too ugly, we're too weak, we're too whatever it is.
I like that.
We're too whatever it is, so that we have to buy their product. And do you know what that does? Dr. Gates will tell you what that does, because Dr. Gates works with this every day. It screws up your frontal lobe. The newspapers are there to put you in fear so that you pick up the newspaper the next day. All of the stuff on television that you're watching now is there to get you to watch the next day, create a crisis. And in Dr. Gates's terms, everybody's frontal lobe in America sucks. Well, let me tell you, that's not funny. Because if you have anxiety, yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Because if you have anxiety, well, he says it because we say it when we're talking about this seriously, but what it means that your frontal lobe is where that stress manifests. Your frontal lobe, if you have anxiety, if you have depression, if you have ADD, oh, we can even get in, and all that type of stuff, and all of this is in the same box. That's your frontal lobe being bad, and they are continually assaulting your frontal lobe, so that they're making your brain have to try to withstand more stimulation than it currently is able to withstand. We are a physiology, okay? We are an entire physiology, 9 systems of the body that is designed to be in exquisite balance. And if it's in exquisite balance, you don't get sick. You don't get cancer. You don't get any of that type of stuff, okay? If you have a genetic problem, it starts off not in exquisite balance. But if it's in exquisite balance, it's good. It needs to maintain, and I don't know how this is going to sound to the scientific guys, but it needs to maintain a homeostasis, not only unto itself, but unto the environment that it is in, okay? And the environment that it is in now is hitting it with so much more stimulation than it is able to withstand. So you're getting hit with television, you're getting hit with this, you're getting hit with that opinion, you're getting hit with the stuff from your cell phone, you're getting hit from people who want to make you buy their products, you're getting hit from all of these different things. People are going to say this, people are going to say that. Then you're getting hit from chemical issues. Your brain's getting hit from having bad blood sugar, because your blood sugar, oh, that's right, we need to fix the diabetes crowd so that we can get out. All of this, folks, is creating the diabetes. All of this is creating the fibromyalgia, the connective tissue disorders, the chronic neck problem that won't go away when everybody else, somebody gets in a car accident and they get adjusted, or they go to a physical therapist and theirs is going away. They either don't have these problems, or they don't have them as bad as the person who has it. But we are designed to work in this society. Our observations are, and I can go on for a long time with all these. I mean, there's a lot more that I can go into, but I just want to set this stage here to make you understand the breadth of the problem, okay? To make you understand the absolutely why taking a pill, or why only one, maybe doing a leaky gut, maybe doing a liver cleanse. A lot of people come in here to do liver cleanses, and I'm not making fun of liver cleanses. They're great, but this is the real problem, and it's a societal problem, and it's expanding. And what we see is our nervous systems are designed to withstand so much stimulation before they are overwhelmed, and then they set off something called the fight-flight mechanism in us. And once that fight-flight mechanism is set off, and if it's set off by some of the things I hear every day that I said I can't believe, I hear every day: sexual abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse. Frankly, today, this is my opinion, even perceived abuse. We're even creating abuse where there isn't abuse. And when a person perceives that they're abused because of something that somebody says, somebody shouldn't violate your personal space, okay, a person gets stressed because that's an emotional thing. So now you have a brain that cannot withstand this type of continual stimulation. It's made to withstand the threshold of this amount of stimulation. You now have somebody walk down the street. Maybe you're looking at that person. Maybe you feel like you're kind of in danger, and your stress mechanisms kind of fire off, and they go, "Whoa, I better watch this guy." Whereas once you have all of these other stimuli coming in, you have all of these fear mechanisms hitting your brain. You have drugs hitting your brain. You have inflammation hitting your brain. You have the bad foods screwing up your gut, which is screwing up your thyroid, which is screwing up your immune system, hitting your brain. Now your threshold's here. And now your threshold's here. And now that same stimulation, you go like this and you totally freak out, because that same stimulation has now exceeded your brain's threshold to be able to handle things. This is what we're seeing every day. This is why the brain is the major key, not just to getting better, but long-term effects. And the other thing that's happening is our immune systems are also apparently, seemingly not made to withstand this type of an attack. And I'll just say, I'm not going to get into like, oh, vaccinations and this, that, and everything, but drugs, antibiotics, poor foods, maybe 60 vaccinations by the time you're 8 years old, maybe is a little bit too much for your immune system. I'm not going to get like, I'm not trying to get into some big argument. This is just the question that's being asked in the literature. This is the question that's starting to be asked by multiple nurses that we treat, by doctors themselves. Like, how much can a system withstand? And then you get sick. And I go on for this for a lot more, but I think you get the idea. Do you think
I think those are good illustrations.
Then you go into what you were talking about. Then you go into the doctor, and the poor doctor's tools are, to say the least, slightly limited. You now have chronic pain issues with multiple vicious cycles, immune systems, thyroids, guts, overfiring brains, and all this type of stuff. And the doctor is limited to what? I'll defer to you on this one.
Well, the doctor's limited to the tools he has, but then the doctor is also limited by malpractice. That's the other thing you don't realize. So the primary thing going through most doctors' minds is, okay, well, I got to give a therapy, but I can't get sued for it. Or I can give you this drug, but I need to make sure that, my office isn't going to get raided because I'm giving too much of this. It's really a fear-based model for most physicians at this point as well. And we can say that based on our experience and talking to several other doctors. Some doctors aren't as afraid, but it's always in the back of their mind. Anytime they're giving a drug, anytime they're evaluating a patient, doctors are afraid to make mistakes because of the vast repercussions that can be put onto them. So now they may have a therapy that may work really well for you, but they're just saying, I don't know. I think we should play it safe. Let's do this. And then you're just caught into the chronic pain. I could say whirlpool. I was going to use another analogy, but you're in the whirlpool. So now you're just in the system and you're floating around. And these are the patients we see all the time who come in for these different conditions. Again, we see patients whose lives oftentimes have been train wrecked by chronic pain. And it's because of everything you just got done talking about that nobody's really talking about. And I'm so glad you went on that rant, because nobody is talking about this. It's true. Who's talking about it? Everybody's talking about one of them. Some people talk about the vaccine. Some people talk about,
and that's part of the
about your leaky gut.
Everybody's made an industry about one or the other.
And some people talk about, your stress. but nobody's really bringing it all together. Nobody's really talking about all those factors in a day-to-day routine, our daily habits, our lifestyle habits, our early life events. All this is playing together to cause you to have pain that you're just not getting over. And so let's use some examples.
And if a patient comes in here and they're undergoing one of those life stresses, like the couple last week, there was a couple that was in here and they clearly were not having a good time being a couple. And we could help this lady. But we had to say to them, you know what, you need to go home and get your marriage straightened out, because if we're trying to do this and do that while you're flooding your system with stress hormones, you are throwing your money away. You are throwing your time away. You're not going to get better. And to take one more step, malpractice is a huge part of it. I'll tell you what drives your doctors totally nutty. All right. The insurance company has a code, and that code tells you what you can treat as a medical doctor. So we do a lot of peripheral neuropathy. I'll use this as just one example. Peripheral neuropathy, there's 80 documented causes to peripheral neuropathy in the medical community, in the medical research literature, 80. They're allowed to look for what, 6, 7? They're allowed to look for 6 or 7.
They're condensing it down to 4. That's so in the other new words, guideline. That's what they want.
All right, 4. So if you walk into your doctor's office, they're allowed to look for diabetes, thyroid, B12 deficiency, and what, spinal stenosis?
No, they can't look for spinal stenosis.
They can't look for spinal stenosis.
According to the 2015 JAMA.
Okay, so there's guidelines. 80 things your doctor is allowed to look for 4, because that's what the insurance is going to pay for. The insurance is going to tell him, do as few tests as you possibly can. The malpractice insurance company is going to go, do as many tests as you possibly can. Okay. And the model, as Dr. Gates alluded to, is usually by that time, it's the wrong model for stopping the problem, reversing it, and getting the person out of pain. A lot of these problems are never going to be cured per se, because a lot of them are immune responses and things like that, but they can be stopped, they can be reversed, they can be gotten under control and kept under control. Frequently with an integrated approach, frequently without medications, maybe with medications. You just got to do what you got to do and keep the medications at the minimum that you could possibly do it, because it's better in the long run. But the point being that these folks have to go by what they're being told, and their model ultimately is, Dr. Vasquez would not mind us saying this, Dr. Vasquez is a pretty sharp dude who's done a tremendous amount of research on this relative to diet and nutrition and so forth. And then he became an osteopath. And he said, I was shocked to go to school and what they told me for chronic pain. What did they tell him?
Relative to chronic, they're just going to have to deal with it.
They told him that our job is that once the person gets into chronic pain, our job is to give them medications to keep them as comfortable as possible until they die a long, slow death. And I think he even said miserable, but if he didn't, I'm saying miserable death. Well, and a lot of people come in here and say, I think this is going to kill me in 3 years. And I don't say this, but in my mind, I think you would be lucky to be gone in 3 years. The problem is this is going to linger and linger and linger, and you're going to be miserable forever. You're going to get more drugs and more drugs. And we are not anti-medication. We have a medical doctor, an osteopath who comes in here and works with us. We work with the medical community closely. We work with cardiologists. We work with internists. We work with neurologists. We have neurologists, a couple of different neurologists that are referred as patients. We are not anti-drugs, but you have to keep a perspective on how much in the chronic world can be handled by drugs and how much can actually be done by other things. Okay. And so that's another problem, because the alternative world wants to be the hero. The medical world wants to be the hero. The integrated world, in theory, wants to be the hero, but it's tough to get a bunch of doctors to work together, communicate with each other, and agree with each other. But in the end, an integrated model probably is best. So you have a problem once you're, the topic was, why are things getting worse? Why do we now have 59%? Now, if you even get the people who want to help you, they have to figure out the model. You either go to a model that the insurance company will pay for that has no chance of helping you other than keeping you out of pain, or you go to another model where everybody's arguing what is it that's going to help you. And then when you go to the people who, this person knows leaky gut, and this person knows the gluten diet, and this person knows a specific carbohydrate diet. If you're watching any of our stuff, you realize that this is what we talk about. This is what we really take under control. This is something I've been thinking about for a while. So when he said, hey, listen, I'll figure it out. This was 30 minutes before we started. I'll figure it out. I said, look, here's something I think that we need to talk about, because people are asking us these questions every day now. I don't get to get out of a consult by just saying, yes, here's your problem. These are this organ system will probably respond. So we can probably go ahead. You'll probably go ahead and do the evaluation, meaning that we're sure that we can help you. We just don't know how much yet. And once we do the evaluation, we'll be able to give you a proper prognosis and how much better we think you're going to get, and what's going to be better and what's going to be not, and all that. I don't get to stop there anymore. Now it's always, why is this happening? Everybody I know is sick. I hear that. I hear it all the time. And it's like nobody has a clue this is what I do. And to the degree that the person can embrace that, it also lets me know they're probably going to be a good patient, because if they get it and they embrace it, then they're going to follow through on the things that we have to tell them to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some specifics?
No, I think we pretty well hammered it. I think we should probably wrap it up on that note.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, let me do that. I could have ranted a little bit more. I was saving some time for it. There's so much. Within anything is creating a chronic stress. Anything is creating a chronic immune problem. Anything, in my opinion, anything that is going into a system in which 135 biochemical pathways are changed when you take, as our producer just did, a drink of coffee or a drink of water, is a delicate system. As you keep shoving more and more things in there, the chances of things going bad are worse. Medicine is valuable. It's more of an acute situation, that acute solution than a chronic solution. It's now coming out that, how the medicines affect each other and so on and so forth, and how the herbs affect the medicines and the medicines affect them. We have gotten out of control on doing things to our very delicately balanced body. Our mantra is that less is more. Society's mantra has become more is better, more of everything. I'm not even talking more money, more of everything. I got more experiences. I got to have these experiences by the time I'm done. I got to do this. I saw a newspaper this morning. I got to travel the world so that I could see all of the different lunar eclipses. Fine, I get it. I get that's cool. I get it's fun. I get all that. But I'd be interested to meet those people and see how their physiology is. When you can ultimately get to a point where you can be satisfied, where you can be content, that calms your nervous system down a lot. When you can ultimately get to the point where you have a few things that really bring joy to your life, and you have a nice group around you of people and friends, these things that people have been talking about forever, they're not a joke. The fact that these are disappearing, and the fact that we're looking for intellectual, complex solutions to things that require a more basic, more simplified approach, is also a problem as to why people are where they are. So we've talked about all of these things in bits and pieces in our past presentations. And if you want to look to the literal aspects of it, the chronic disease, the irritable bowel, the leaky gut, why your peripheral neuropathy is this way, why you have post-surgical pain, just know all of this stuff that we've talked about today are the things that set you up for each one of them, and each one of them kind of have their own individual flow as to how you address each one of those. So I don't know if this made any sense. I don't know if it's a rant. I actually don't consider it a rant, but I could see how that would be. I don't know how it comes off. I'm not doing this cavalierly. I'm genuinely hoping that you get this so you can look around and go, you know what? I think what he's saying kind of makes sense, because at that point, it gives the opportunity for at least a number of people to maybe go around and say, maybe I just need to start calming this down and seeing what, yeah, get off the gluten. Yeah, do your leaky gut thing. Any dietary change that makes you feel better, keep doing it. If you're taking a supplement and it makes you feel better, keep doing it. I'm not saying just throw everything away. I'm just saying you need to understand why you do one thing and it only works for a while. You go here, this person doesn't know it. Why do we have 59%? These are not easily corrected problems. These are societal problems. The government isn't going to take care of this. The insurance company's not going to take care of this. The Mayo Clinic's not going to take care of this. You're going to take care of this. if you understand what I'm saying, you are going to be the person who ultimately takes care of this. If you come to someone like us, we can give people more specific direction, but the entire thing is we screen people to determine, are they going to have the tissues that are able to heal? And two, can they embrace the concept that they're going to have to embrace? And are they motivated enough to do the things they're going to need to do to have a sane life again, and to not just get better, but to stay better? And that's really the key. So I hope this helps. If you disagree with me, that's fine. Don't even bother to tell me how you disagree with me, because this is what I see every day. This is what we have to treat. I'm okay if you disagree with me. I get it. I understand it. The conditioning out there is quite different than what I just said. But in the end, we share this with you with all the sincerity of our hearts. I can't tell you how important it is to get this message out. I know it's probably not going to go very far, but to those of you who get it, I hope that you embrace it, and I hope you start to think about it seriously. And I think it will help you a lot. So thanks for listening to me rant. And we'll see you next week. And Dr. Gates will have an interesting topic next week.